Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts, and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Daffy Duck Hunt, and hunting with me today is my good friend Manny Cruz. Say hi.
Hunters is the craziest people.
Indeed. So just a few bits of info before we get started. So this is Daffy Duck Hunt, released on the 26th of March 1949. It's the 551st in the series, and it's directed by Robin McKimson. You can currently find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1 DVD set. It's been restored again on HBO Max, and it looks a lot better than that release, but honestly, each is fine. I think they both look okay. In case you haven't seen this one, you know, it's a copyrighted cartoon. So essentially, Porky is out hunting, and the target is Daffy. Now, after failing multiple times, the dog manages to trick Daffy into being taken back to Porky's home. But as you've all probably figured out, once Daffy is in Porky's home, he causes all sorts of mischief. Now, some trivia. In one of the reviews Manny and I did, well, we said Lou Lear wasn't probably going to be used past a certain cartoon, but no, he's back in this one.
Duck hunters is the craziest people.
So we need to hang our heads in shame, right, Manny?
How wrong we were. That's it, boys. Pack up shop. We're done.
We're done. How dare we make a mistake? Oh, well. Now, this cartoon actually appears to be a sort of remake, maybe a semi-remake of Porky's Duck Hunt, where I suppose at least the first act of Daffy Duck Hunt is the remake portion, and the other part, well, could even be seen as a sequel. If you think that's the case, yeah, let me know in the comments. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's just a coincidence, but anyway. The Do Not Open Until Xmas gag that we see in this short was actually reused from Patient Porky, and both cartoons were written by Warren Foster. Because we all know Friz Freling's the one that copies everything and reuses gags, right? It's only Friz Freling, no one else.
It was only him. That's it. Nobody else.
That's right. But to be fair, difference between two cartoons is what, 10 years, give or take? So, come on. Reusing gags in this case, I think, is A-okay, in my opinion. But the biggest one, people creating Looney Tunes shorts had great attention to detail when it comes to the animation, but sometimes not so much in other things, because according to the Looney Tunes universe, April over there has 31 days instead of 30. So what do we say about that, Manny?
Are we supposed to believe that this is some kind of magical calendar? I sure hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Indeed.
It's apparently in the multiverse. April has more than 30 days in the Looney Tune part of the multiverse, and apparently you could also survive being blown up by dynamite, but that's a story for another day.
Of course. So, first of all, this cartoon's great. It's a nice, solid cartoon, great gags, and it starts off right away with one of the most random throwaway gags I've seen in a Looney Tunes short, and that's that giant duck that Daffy's traveling in. I mean, what is that?
You know what? It just hit me. I don't know if you saw they just had a commercial for the Super Bowl a few days ago. You know, they had all these people coming to McDonald's and like, all right, how can I take your order? And everybody just goes, you know, they're trying to think of it kind of reminds me of that scene in SpongeBob where Patrick is just going like, But out of nowhere, good old Kanye West pulls up with this huge battle tank, whatever, opens up the back just to order McDonald's. And I'm like, I think Daffy Duck did it first, and then Kanye copied him 70-something years later with this ridiculous, huge duck Trojan horse disguise vehicle. I don't even know what to call it, but it's a great way to start. It's like it's so unnecessary, but it's hilarious.
Indeed. Now, this dog that's in this short, you know, a lot of people refer to him as the Barnyard Dog, and look, it's the same design, but for whatever reason, he sounds different in this short.
I'll show him a trick or two.
So, I don't know, is he the same dog, just with a different voice, or is it part of the same litter? But again, we're looking too much into it, aren't we? I mean, what do you think, Manny?
Well, first off, when you said we're looking too much into it, it's like, I mean, we are Looney Tune nerds. I mean, that might come as a shock to whoever's listening. But no, but I just always consider him to be Barnyard Dog, just with a different voice. Kind of like how, Bugs in A Wild Hare had his definitive voice, and then for Elmer's Pet Rabbit, Mel Blanc changed. Actually, now that I mention it, Barnyard Dog kind of sounds like Bugs a little bit in Elmer's Pet Rabbit. And speaking of the voice, later in the cartoon when Barnyard Dog is having the angel and the devil talk to him.
Atta boy, Jack. You tricked that duck good. Now you're all set with your master. What's a duck, more or less?
The devil's voice sounds like the voice of Barnyard Dog I'm more familiar with. The more gruff voice. You're gonna get him. Like the voice that you would see him in a lot of Foghorn Leghorn cartoons. But I mean, take that as you will. I know some people or some other cartoons refer to the Barnyard Dog as, I think, George P. Dog. I read that somewhere, probably Looney Wiki, which isn't always accurate, and also Mandrake. But for me, it's Barnyard Dog with a different voice. Take it as you will.
Exactly right. One thing that came to mind when I was watching this cartoon is the quote,
If I don't bring back a duck, he'll torture me.
Now visualize for a moment Porky Pig torturing a dog if he doesn't bring home a duck. I mean, that's not exactly a good visual. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, this poor dog, the way he was desperate in getting Daffy to come home with him leads me to think that Porky's done some things, terrible things already, to this poor dog. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, it just popped in my head, but usually sausages are made out of pork, but Porky might be finding an alternate source of these sausages. Sorry for the disturbing visual, folks. Good night.
That's right. But I will say something else that's not quite torturous. If you look at Porky's home, you'll notice that there was a separate home freezer where you got the comically big blizzard coming out of it. I've since actually learned that separate home freezers did not go into mass production for home use until after World War II. So when people were watching this, they would have seen this as an actual novelty, because usually there would be the combination unit, usually one on top and one on the bottom, or thereabouts. And of course, before that, you'd be in like an actual icebox. In other words, I'll be soon changing the channel name to Anthony's Freezer Talk, because that's what I'll be talking about. But no. But in all seriousness, yeah, people would have looked at this and seen that it would have been an absolute novelty around this time. But let's talk about the angel and the devil, which we should probably call ourselves when we're doing these tracks.
But who is who?
Ooh. Let us know in the comments who's the angel, who's the devil. Come on. But what a great scene, and with a nice little twist with the angel being the badass. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, anytime I see, the angel devil, dynamic has been played up so many times in animation. One scene in particular I always think of is, of course, this might come as a shock, The Simpsons. I think Homer's angel voice is like, "That's a terrible thing to say," and he sounds like Droopy. And then Homer himself, actually, there is no devil. Homer talking to the angel and he says, shut up, okay, and he disappears. But it's nice to see the angel get the upper hand in this one. And anytime Mel Blanc screams, shut up, it's a winner in my eyes.
And this cartoon also just shows how versatile the whole Daffy Porky team up really is, because you could have him in all sorts of different situations. You've got other ones where Daffy's might be an insurance salesman, or he might be an obnoxious co-stayer at a hotel and all that stuff, and Porky's usually the straight man. And here, Daffy's a literal duck. Does Porky actually plan on eating Daffy later on? I mean, that seems to be the case, hence why Daffy's in the freezer. But anyway, we won't think too deeply into that as well. Between that and the Porky torturing his dog, Porky's got some questions to answer, I would think. What about the Alaskan trek? I like the fact that, this perhaps derails the story ever so slightly, but it's so good you can forgive it, where Daffy's just telling this story about this whole trek that he was doing from inside this freezer. Then all of a sudden he just changes tune. The whole thing just becomes lighthearted. It's such a great scene, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love that scene. We were talking about before recording. Just that, and I double checked, and I first, I think you mentioned it before. I don't even remember, but you're gonna link the animator breakdown done by Devin Baxter. Thank you, Devin,
Indeed.
for getting the information. But that scene, and I was like, you know what? I think it's Manny Gould, but yes, I double checked it. It's a feast for the eyes, and Mel Blanc screaming his head off, and then just the contrast of how's every little thing. It's brilliant.
Exactly right. And yes, if you want to know who animated what and some more details about the origins of the short itself, definitely click the link that will be in the description below by Devin Baxter.
Benedict Arnold. It's the traitor.
One more thing I want to point out before we get into the music part of it. We hear Jingle Bells being sung, and this just shows, again, I know I repeat this a lot in a lot of these tracks about how amazing Mel Blanc truly was, but look at the way he sings Jingle Bells. You got to remember, this is him playing 3 different characters, and yet you forget that it's just one person doing all those voices, and you believe that it's 3 different characters. It's just incredible.
Talking about the part in one of the Hunting Trilogy cartoons, Daffy is imitating Bugs, and Bugs is imitating Daffy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it perfectly sums up just how brilliant and how much of a master at controlling his voice Mel Blanc is. And this is another perfect example. It's hard enough to sing, and trust me, I know, because I am a singer, but to sing in character and then to sing as 3 different characters. I mean, obviously he recorded them in different takes, but like just hearing how convincing he is as Porky and then Daffy, and then like, I mean, you hear, Barnyard Dog's voice and Daffy's lisp while singing, and of course Jingle Bells and Jingle Bells, and it's just it's like, he's
It is
insert
amazing.
10 minutes of Manny going crazy over Mel Blanc here.
But the music in this one is also excellent, including one certain Latin song that was in a previous Norma Cape short, I believe.
So this is Gay Barry, come on along with me. We're stepping out to see the Latin Quarter. Put on your old beret, let's sing a Marseillaise and put our wine away like water.
By this time, I think it was a tried and true Carl Stalling go-to. This is the Latin Quarter. So the Latin Quarter, which was originally from the 1938 film Gold Diggers in Paris, and it was written by Harry Warren and Al Dubin, and those names pop up frequently if you're looking into the history of music used in these cartoons. And yes, I'm thinking of I mean, there's a ton of different Looney Tune Merry Melody cartoons that use the melody in this one, but you're thinking in particular of a childhood favorite of mine that I used to see a lot on Nickelodeon, Daffy Southern Exposure from 1942, during the part where the weasel and the wolf are preparing da 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 da, I'll take your order, and they're putting all the beans for Daffy. And I mean, oh man, can I go back and re-record that cartoon, because I love that one. But anyway, speaking of which, now that you mentioned the Latin Quarter, I do want to say real quick, this cartoon is like a gold mine for different clips in commercials. And what do I mean by that? That scene of Daffy dancing to the Latin Quarter, I remember seeing it in a commercial for Nickelodeon for Looney Tunes on Nick when I was a kid. Also, the scene of Daffy screaming when he's going through the whole Arctic story. I heard that sound effect in a commercial before. And Porky, several lines of his dialogue in this cartoon, I mentioned the Pork Jam music video that was on Cartoon Network years ago. And when he goes, "Attaboy, that's more like it. Go get him. Come on, boy, we've earned a little rest." Those specific clips were used in the Pork Jam video. And we were talking about it on Paying the Piper as well, that the scene of Porky shaking his rump, the best meat's in the rump. And it seems that whoever edited that video is a big fan of McKimson Porky cartoons, because they loved using clips of it. So yeah, the Latin Quarter, love that song. The beginning of the cartoon, the opening titles, "A Hunting We Will Go," we know that. The cartoon starts off, and this is where something that sometimes I'm guilty of saying it wrong, but I like to clarify. When we talk about the William Tell Overture, so an overture is an opening, an instrumental piece of music that opens up an opera, an oratorio, a play, so on and so forth. The overture, it's about 12 minutes long. It was for the beginning of the the opera written by Gioacchino Rossini, William Tell, whatever. The overture itself has several distinct parts. So the beginning starts off with a cello doing its thing, playing a cello solo. Then it starts to get into the famous storm sequence that you hear a lot in cartoons. And then after the storm sequence ends, it enters the part that you hear in the beginning of this cartoon. I'm not going to bother pronouncing it in French because I'm awful. This is the call to the cows, and it features the English horn playing the famous melody. And every time I hear that, I think of a Daffy Duck cartoon. Like, it's become ingrained in my brain. I don't think of opera. I think of Porky hunting some ducks. And obviously the most famous part of the overture, the ending, is the one that we think of, Red Hot Rider and all that other stuff. Silent Night. So I thought that was really cool that at the very end of the cartoon, when Daffy has the do not open till Xmas sticker on him. So Silent Night, originally it was in German, Stille Nacht, which literally means Silent Night in German, composed by the Austrian composer Franz Gruber. And the text of it, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, so Silent Night, Holy Night, literally, was written by the Austrian priest Joseph Mohr. And it's cool hearing that very famous Christmas carol within Warner Brothers cartoon. So that was my musical musings. We should have like theme music. Manny's musical musings. Never mind. I tried.
Of course.
I tried my best and I failed miserably.
But we all know the lesson is to never try, of course.
Exactly.
But what we will try and do is give this a good rating. You know, I'm giving this 8.5 out of 10. I think this is a solid short, one of McKimson's best. We think, and which is interesting because I hadn't seen this one for a long time, but it truly is one of his best, and just shows just how great the Porky Daffy team up is, and which is why they're still using it even today, regardless of what you may think of those shorts. But what would you rate this one?
You took the words right out of my mouth. 8.5 out of 10. I did see this one here and there as a kid. I used to see it both on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. I've always found it funny, and you've heard me say it before a billion times. My favorite Looney Tune duo, hands down, is Porky and Daffy, and this cartoon is a great reflection of that dynamic they had. Absolutely funny cartoon.
Indeed. So we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much, guys, for listening, and until next time, take care.
Come on, Anthony. We've earned a little rest.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a horse and be a sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a horse and open sleigh. I'll make sure this time that you're... Christmas. By that time, I'll figure a way out of this mess.